Our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, sat down for a 3-hour one-on-one with controversial podcast host Joe Rogan last night. Rogan remains a vaccine skeptic despite having caught COVID-19 himself.
Joe Rogan is a media phenomenon.
I think all the attempts to cancel him only redound to his credit and increase the rapidity with which he's destroying the entire legacy media. So the CNN people came after Joe Rogan, and one of them said, essentially, man, what's going on here? We've got this whole bureaus devoted to fact checking and the truth, and all these experts hired, and why the hell aren't people listening to us when they listen to Joe Rogan and he's just winging it? And I thought, just winging it, eh? You try just winging it in front of 11 million people for 5 years and see if you're still standing, buddy. You think just winging it is so easy. Well, first of all, why aren't you doing it if it's so damn easy? And second, isn't it something that with all your resources, you can only garner like 1/10 of the audience of one man who has like zero production expertise in his studio? He just puts it all out online. And all he does is to have honest conversations. I mean, insofar as he's capable of that, Joe stumbles and he knows that and admits it. And sometimes he gets too, buttoned down on a given point. But fundamentally, he's just trying to do what we're doing here. Which
Don't
is
you want to just say, leave him alone? Whoever wants to listen to Joe, go listen to Joe, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, well, part of me now thinks, hey, keep at it, guys. Every time you attack him, 1 million more subscribers for Joe. They kick him off Spotify. He would have a new platform like in 2 days with twice as many listeners. And so Joe's got to the point where as long as he continues to be careful, and he is being, I don't think he can be canceled. In fact, I think all the attempts to cancel him only redound to his credit and increase the rapidity with which he's destroying the entire legacy media. When I did this interview, for example, and all the discussions I have on my podcast, they're not instrumental. Like, I didn't come on this podcast because I thought, well, I'm going to talk to several thousand truckers, let's say, and here's what I want them to think. And so I better make sure that I talk in this manner, and I have to make sure I hit these talking points. And there's none of that, zero. And the only real rationale for opposing free speech, apart from ignorance, which is that you don't know that free speech isn't just another right and you don't know it's indistinguishable from thought, is the conclusion that you've already figured it all out. So you don't have to think.
Or you're trying to hide something.
Well, that's the other possibility. But those two things go hand in hand very frequently, is that it's very often that people who are trying to hide something justify that to themselves with a kind of totalitarian certainty about their beliefs. They double down on them to hide their own moral iniquities. And so you have to believe that people like Rogan shouldn't be allowed to just have a discussion with whoever they want and wing it. And you think that because you think you already know. And, if your life is perfect and you're already living in the kingdom of God, and then more power to you, maybe you're right and you can shut down free discourse because the heavenly heights have already been scaled. But I haven't met anyone like that yet. Most people I know think with not too much thought that there's some things they still have to learn and some ways their lives could be improved. And how are we going to approach that? Especially, you want to find out how you're wrong. You should talk to people who don't agree with you. Now, maybe 90% of what they say is not worth attending to. Could easily be. Probably the same goes for you. But 10% might be just what saves you in the next crisis. This is one of the things I loved about being a clinician, is that I talked to lots of people who were really different than me, like seriously different from me. And if I wasn't learning something from them when I was in discourse with them, it was because I wasn't conducting the discourse properly.
What do you think is going to happen with him with Spotify?
Oh, Spotify won't remove Rogan?
You don't think so? What are
They'd
the
be
odds?
out of their mind.
What are the odds? They dropped from $60 billion valuation to 36. That's $24 billion. You think the board is sitting there they're diehard Joe Rogan fans, or do you think they're profit margin, top line revenue fans?
Oh, I would rather that they were the latter, the profit margin types, because that's what a corporation should do. And I'd trust them more if they were doing that.
I'm with you.
But I also think that if they have any sense, and I know how this is going to turn out, it's turned out in my life like 50 times this way.
Yeah.
The heat goes on, the pressure's on, you're in the desert, it's unpleasant. You wait it out. You wait it out. You wait it out. If you haven't done anything wrong, you wait it out. You don't apologize. You don't back down. You wait, and things viciously turn in your favor. Now, waiting it out while you're roasting, that's not pleasant. And if the Spotify types have any sense, they think, yeah, well, that's a drop, but, you know, it's part of the death throes of the legacy media. And once all the dust settles, CNN will have half the viewers they have now, and Joe Rogan will have twice the viewers, and we'll be doing just fine. And Rogan, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, he came out on Instagram. This is so funny. He came out on Instagram to talk about all this a few days ago, and I thought, you nailed it, Joe. He came out and he said, it's a paraphrase, and I'm going to do it a bit comedically. He basically said, well, everyone knows I'm kind of a lunkhead and I have lots to learn, and I probably haven't managed this like perfectly because I do my own scheduling and I just talk to people I'm interested in. And so possibly I could have presented a more balanced view some of the time, and I'll try to do better in the future. And so all the legacy media said, Joe Rogan apologizes, which is not really the case. Mm-hmm. And then he talked about how much he liked Neil Young, and none of this was for show, and none of this was
He's as sincere as it gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
he told the story when he was at a Neil Young concert.
Great, man. And so as long as Rogan keeps doing that, and he's been doing it for 5 years, and it's not like he hasn't faced pressure before. It's clear to me that I just can't see any scenario short of his assassination that ends up in Rogan not having 20 million viewers an episode in a year. And so as long as he's careful, like he is, I don't think Rogan can be canceled. So even if Spotify dumps him, it's like, who's dumping who here? Rogan, he's on Spotify. It's not necessarily. Spotify might be on Rogan. It's not so clear. And so what's going to happen? They kick him off? Well, he'll just have another platform like tomorrow.
Immediately.
Yeah, and he'll have all the money Spotify gave him, which was actually...
Did you see what Pat had to say about this topic yesterday?
I think Rogan is $1 billion guy. I think Elon needs to sign a 20-year, $50 million a year contract with Rogan and start a company, like a social media company. Choose which route you want to go, a direct competitor to YouTube, to Google, it's not like Elon hasn't done it. He didn't create a company that was revolutionary. He went against cars. Cars have been around for a while.
Well,
He
and
didn't invent
rockets.
cars. Yeah, but what I'm saying is cars and rockets have been around. So it's not like he went and invented the rocket or invented a car. You don't need to invent something. Just go direct against YouTube, go direct against Spotify, and Elon and Rogan could pull it off with the help of Peter Thiel. It'll work itself out, and they'll recruit the right people. They'll make a few phone calls, and the world's going to come saying, hey, if you like to have a platform for free thinkers and where you're not going to be censored, give us a call.